The earth is hurting. Wildfires rage across continents, leaving behind landscapes of ash and despair. Oceans rise, swallowing coastlines and ancient cities. Glaciers weep, their frozen tears a testament to a planet in peril. This is our reality, a world grappling with the consequences of a changing climate. From the scorched plains of Australia to the flooded streets of Miami, the impacts of climate change are no longer a distant threat. They are here, they are now. These are not isolated incidents, but a pattern of increasing frequency and intensity. A stark warning of the chaos we are unleashing upon ourselves. The science is clear, the evidence irrefutable. We are living in an age of climate consequences. But amidst the rising tides and raging infernos, there is a story that often gets lost. The story of the economic crisis brewing beneath the surface. This is the story of climate change as an economic time bomb. A story best told through the lens of countries like Bangladesh, nations standing on the front lines of this global crisis. Bangladesh, a nation of vibrant culture and resilient people, is caught in the crosshairs of climate change. Located at the confluence of three mighty rivers and situated on a low-lying delta, Bangladesh is acutely vulnerable to the impacts of a warming world. Rising sea levels threaten to submerge vast swathes of its coastal areas, displacing millions. The country is no stranger to cyclones and floods, but climate change is amplifying these events, making them more frequent and more destructive. The land, once fertile and life-giving, is increasingly succumbing to the intrusion of salt water, rendering it unsuitable for agriculture. These changes are not merely environmental. They are transforming the very fabric of Bangladeshi society, pushing its people to the brink. For a nation already grappling with the challenges of poverty and development, climate change is not just an environmental threat. It is an existential one. The very survival of Bangladesh as we know it is at stake. The story of Bangladesh is a stark reminder that climate change is not a distant threat. It is a clear and present danger, and its impacts are being felt most acutely by the world's most vulnerable populations. The economic toll of climate change is already being felt across the globe, but nowhere is it more pronounced than in developing countries like Bangladesh. A recent report by the World Bank estimates that Bangladesh could lose up to 9% of its GDP by 2050 due to climate change impacts. This translates to billions of dollars in lost economic output, a devastating blow to a nation striving for economic growth and development. The agricultural sector, a cornerstone of the Bangladesh economy, is facing a barrage of challenges. Rising temperatures, erratic rainfall patterns, and saltwater intrusion are wreaking havoc on crop yields. The rice bowl of Bangladesh is slowly turning into a saline wasteland, jeopardizing the livelihoods of millions of farmers and pushing up food prices for everyone. The costs of inaction are staggering, yet the world seems content to fiddle while Rome burns. Each fraction of a degree of warming translates into more human suffering, more economic devastation. The question is, how much more are we willing to bear before we act? Section 4. Fields of Despair, Climate Change and the Future of Food. Imagine a world where the land that once nourished generations can no longer sustain life. This is the grim reality facing Bangladesh as climate change tightens its grip on the country's agricultural heartland. Rising sea levels, are pushing saltwater inland, poisoning the fertile soil and leaving behind barren fields. For millions of Bangladeshis, agriculture is not just a profession, it is a way of life. But climate change is severing this vital link, forcing farmers off their land and into overcrowded cities. The exodus from rural areas is straining urban infrastructure and fueling social unrest. The loss of agricultural productivity is a humanitarian catastrophe in the making. As food prices soar, the most vulnerable are being pushed further into poverty and hunger. This is the cruel irony of climate change. Those who contributed the least are bearing the brunt. Section 5. Scorched Earth, Lost Livelihoods, the Human Cost of a Warming World. The economic impacts of climate change extend far beyond agriculture. Bangladesh's burgeoning garment industry, a major driver of economic growth and a lifeline for millions of workers, is also facing unprecedented challenges. Extreme heat and humidity are making working conditions in factories increasingly unbearable, leading to reduced productivity and health risks for workers. Flooding and cyclones are disrupting supply chains, damaging infrastructure, and causing widespread power outages, further crippling the industry. These disruptions have a ripple effect throughout the economy, impacting jobs, livelihoods, and the nation's overall economic stability. The human cost of these economic losses is immeasurable. Families are being pushed into poverty, children are being forced to drop out of school, and dreams are being shattered. The very fabric of Bangladeshi society is being torn apart by the relentless onslaught of climate change. Section 6. A shared responsibility, bridging the divide between developed and developing nations. The stark reality is that those who have contributed the least to climate change, the world's poorest and most vulnerable communities, are bearing the brunt of its impacts. This is a fundamental injustice that demands a global response rooted in equity and solidarity. Developed nations, with their historical responsibility for the vast majority of greenhouse gas emissions, have a moral obligation to support developing countries in their efforts to adapt to climate change and transition to low-carbon economies. This is not about charity, it is about climate justice. It is about recognizing that we are all interconnected on this planet and that our collective future depends on our ability to address this global crisis together. The time for empty promises and half-hearted measures is long gone. We need concrete actions and ambitious commitments from all nations, particularly those with the greatest historical responsibility and the greatest capacity to act. Section 7. Investing in our future, a time for bold action. Amidst despair, there is hope. Bangladesh is not a passive victim of climate change. It is a global leader in climate adaptation. Investing in early warning systems and cyclone shelters, Bangladesh adapts with innovation and resolve. It leads in renewable energy, especially solar power. Microcredit empowers women in the renewable sector, providing clean energy to rural communities. These initiatives show a future of sustainable development. Bangladesh's story is a testament to human resilience, but we cannot adapt our way out of this crisis. The time for bold, transformative action is now. We need systemic solutions to address climate change. Bangladesh is just one example of how climate change is reshaping economies. The question is, what will we do about it? Should governments and businesses take stronger action, or are we doomed to keep paying the price of inaction? And if you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into the biggest issues shaping our world. See you in the next one.